Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Modi with OddsJam, and what we're going to do in this video, something that it's never too early to do, and we're going to be talking about betting on the NBA. So I know the season just ended. Game 7 would have been tonight, recording this Sunday, June 19th. Happy Father's Day. But right now is the time where you can get some really good value on futures, such as championship winner, Eastern Conference winner, Western Conference winner, all that good stuff. I'm going to be talking about early futures odds for the 2022-2023 NBA season. Most notably, championship winner, but of course we'll talk about the conference winners as well. So the page I have up here is directly from OddsJam. We have all futures odds. Right now, everything is sorted alphabetically. We are working on a change, instead of getting it alphabetically, to get it in order of biggest favorite to least favorite. So teams like, the Warriors would be at the top. Teams like the Rockets would be at the bottom. That's kind of how it would work. But right now, it's just alphabetical. So I have FanDuel up here to see it in order of likelihood as well. So let's get the obvious one off the bat. The best odds across all sportsbooks are the Golden State Warriors. So FanDuel has them at plus 500. And if you look at the OddsJam page, which right now we have BetRivers, FanDuel, and PointsBet, PointsBet has the best odds at plus 600. This sportsbook here, the OddsJam one, this is actually pulled from the sharpest bookmaker in the world, the most accurate bookmaker in the world. So this OddsJam line is going to be kind of viewed as the source of truth. So in terms of bets that I would actually recommend, anywhere in which you can get better odds than the OddsJam line, which you can here on PointsBet for the Warriors, that's going to be something that I would recommend taking. Obviously not every single one of these, but for the bets that I do recommend, just make sure that you're getting better odds than this OddsJam line here. So, okay, let's talk about the Warriors. I'm not going to try and be a contrarian here. The Warriors are the favorite, and they should be the favorite. They're not losing any of Wiggins, Draymond, Steph, or Klay. If anything, the scary part is the Warriors should actually be better next year than they were this year. Now, of course, their competition is going to be harder, which I will get into later. Clippers are getting Kawhi back. The Nuggets are getting Jamal Murray back. The Grizzlies are on the up and up. The Timberwolves are on the up and up. The Mavs are probably still on the up and up. So their competition in the West will get harder. But the Warriors should only get better. The scary thing is, let's talk about this Warriors regular season. So Klay didn't come back. I forget when his first game was. Let's just look it up. Klay's first game back was on January 10th. So the season started in October. He missed from October to January 10th. The scary thing is, when Klay returned, Draymond was out with a back injury. Draymond missed a couple months with that back injury. When Draymond came back is when Steph Curry hurt his foot. So Steph Curry hurt his foot in a game actually against the Celtics, funny enough. He missed the rest of the regular season. So really, the Warriors didn't get time to gel until the playoffs. If you remember, Steph actually came off the bench the first two playoff games against the Nuggets. He came off the bench, and they still beat the Nuggets in 5. They beat the Mavericks in 5. They beat the Celtics in 6, and they beat the Mavericks in 6. So this Warriors team, I think plus 600 is incredible value as of right now. If you flash back just a year, you rewind the clock back a year, the Nets were the favorite to win the title back when they had Harden, Kyrie, and Durant. They were the favorite, and they were at like plus 300. They were huge favorites, and that team had barely even played together. So the Warriors, with insane continuity, winners of 4 out of the last 8 titles, they've been to 6 out of the last 8 championships. Getting them at plus 600, I'm not going to try and go different here. I think that is incredible value. So right off the bat, if you want the best pick you can make, take the Warriors at plus 600 odds. Put $200 on it. Not actually. Bet responsibly. Put whatever number you are comfortable on it, because I think that is insane value. The Warriors just won, and their big 3 of Draymond, Klay, and Steph barely played together. So to get that one right off the bat, Warriors as the betting favorite. They should be the betting favorite. So I think that they are worthy of betting. And if you also wanted to take them to win the West at plus 240 or plus 250 on BetMGM, or excuse me, BetRivers or Caesars, I think that would be a worthy bet as well. Either way, the Warriors are the betting favorite, as we can see, plus 500 on FanDuel, and they should be the betting favorite. So the next three, according to FanDuel, are tied: Nets, Bucks, and Celtics. Now, to talk about these three, I mean, the Celtics just went to the finals. They're a young team. They had a brand new head coach. They have some stuff to figure out. Like, I think they need to find a true point guard. I think all those turnovers on offense, I think a lot of that is related to because they were having Marcus Smart be the point guard. And Marcus Smart's a good player. He's a good passer, but he's not a traditional point guard, and he shouldn't be a traditional point guard. So I think that the Celtics, they're not going anywhere. I do think they have some stuff to figure out. And I think the main thing for me is them getting a point guard. But Tatum's young, Brown's young, Smart is still young. Al Horford, he's not going to play a ton in the regular season, and that's fine. Robert Williams is only getting better. Grant Williams is only getting better. So the Celtics team is certainly not going anywhere. Getting them at plus 700 odds, I think, is okay. I actually like, for the same odds, actually, while I'm on the Celtics, okay, so plus 700 is the best odds you can get. And it is better odds than the OddsJam line. So if you wanted to sprinkle some on there, I don't think that's terrible. But for me, if we're talking about my favorite to come out of the East, I actually like the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, unfortunately, there's no scenario in which we're getting better odds than the OddsJam line. And just to compare the OddsJam line, so the Bucks are 8-12 and the Celtics are 6-10. So the OddsJam actually thinks the Celtics are significantly bigger favorites to go to the finals or to win the finals than the Bucks are. But for me, my own personal thoughts, I actually like the Bucks over the Celtics. I think that the Bucks, I don't think that there's enough talk that the Bucks brought the Celtics to 7 games, and they were literally missing their second best player. They were missing Chris Middleton. I think the Bucks probably win that series if they have Chris Middleton. I mean, there's some points when they just had trouble scoring. Let's not forget, Chris Middleton was the Bucks' fourth quarter hero in the playoff run when the Bucks won the title last year. So I think that we don't talk enough about Chris Middleton being missing. And Giannis isn't going anywhere. They still have an awesome team with Drew Holiday is good. Bobby Portis, I think they have re-signed him or they're going to re-sign him. Bud's obviously, he's proven himself as a good coach. So for me, even though the odds aren't necessarily in my favor, so I would maybe wait to lock this one in, or just take it at 750 on PointsBet and hope that the odds shift more in your favor. If I were to come up with my finals prediction next year as of right now, which is exactly what I'm doing, I actually like the Bucks over the Celtics. Again, I think the Bucks would have beaten them if Chris Middleton was healthy. He's a good scorer, second option for the Bucks that they desperately needed, and he's a good defender. I mean, those games when Tatum had 46, I'm not saying Chris Middleton would have stopped him, but at least it's another body to throw on him when Bobby Portis gets tired, Drew Holiday gets tired. Giannis obviously has a huge load on offense. So, I like the Bucks. I think they're a great bet. I love the odds. I think they should be bigger favorites than the Celtics, but I certainly don't hate the Celtics at all. So that's my thoughts in terms of my East finals prediction. I would take the Bucks as of right now. If you want to look at the Eastern Conference winner and look at the Milwaukee Bucks, plus 340 on Caesars, I think is great value. I'll definitely recommend taking that. In terms of the Nets, who I haven't talked about yet, I'm totally out. I am totally out on the Nets. I see no reason why next season they should be any better than they were at the end of the year. Kyrie came back. Once he started playing consistent basketball, the Nets still didn't take that next step. Now, of course, Ben Simmons didn't play basketball. Ben Simmons was great in the regular season. Ben Simmons has disappeared in the playoffs every single year of his career. Every year Ben Simmons has played in the playoffs, he has been terrible in those playoffs. Now, he missed one playoff run with the Sixers when he got hurt in the bubble year, but his rookie year against the Celtics, he didn't do anything. The next year against the Raptors in that 7-game series, he didn't do anything. And I don't even need to bring up what happened in the Hawks series the last year. So Ben Simmons, I don't think he is a net positive for the Nets in the playoffs, and I just don't think they have enough around him. I also am not sold on Steve Nash as head coach. I saw a really bad offensive system against the Celtics, and they got swept by the Celtics. So I don't really think they should be as big favorites as they are. I think there's a huge gap between the Bucks and Celtics and the Nets. So I'm not considering them at all. Now, there are 3 championship dark horses, not dark horses, that outside of the top 4 that I really like. Number 1 is the Clippers. I think the Clippers have an awesome basketball team. I love Ty Lue as a head coach, and I think that we don't give enough credit for the Clippers even making the play-in game with Kawhi missing the entire year and with Paul George missing most of the year. So I love the Clippers. I think they have a good roster, a hard-nosed roster. They're always going to be good defensively. Where they struggled was offensively, but Kawhi and Paul George settled that immediately. So I think the Clippers plus 750 isn't insane value. Let's look at where all the other markets price them to see if there's any value there. Los Angeles Clippers, here we go. So plus 750 is the best odds. It is better than the OddsJam line, so there is some value there. I wouldn't hate sprinkling some on the Clippers. I think they're a great value pick. I really do. I think if you want to predict them to get out of the West, I don't hate it all. Plus 400, I think, is pretty good odds. The Warriors are at plus 250, so you can get about 150 points higher by betting on the Clippers. And I think that's a good bet. Like I said, I don't have much else to add other than you're getting Kawhi back. While we're on the topic of injuries, let's talk about the Nuggets getting Jamal Murray back. Now, I feel bad for the Nuggets. My bold take is that a year ago, if Jamal Murray never gets hurt, I think the Nuggets win the title. I think they had an awesome team that's not quite as good now as they were back then. They have some changes coming up. They're looking to trade Monte Morris, Will Barton. So there's a lot of changes in Denver, and I just think the West is better now than it was then. As you remember, the Suns made that finals run, but the teams they beat, the Lakers in the first round, who had a hobbled Anthony Davis and a hobbled LeBron. The second round, they beat the Nuggets, again without that Jamal Murray. And in the Western Finals, they were taken to 6 by the Kawhi-less Clippers. So 2 years ago, I think the Nuggets win the title. Yet it's yet to be seen just how good they can be when they get Jamal Murray back and Michael Porter back healthy. But I think the Nuggets sprinkling some at, so plus 1,700 are the best odds on FanDuel. Pretty significantly better than the OddsJam line. So I think that's a worthy one. Another long shot that I really like is, and this is a really, really big long shot, the Memphis Grizzlies. One of the youngest teams in the NBA. I think we forget just how good the Grizzlies were in the regular season last year. If we just go to NBA.com and let's look at all the different stats on NBA.com. So we're going to go to stats. We're going to go to team, traditional stats. So not looking at the playoffs. They had the second best regular season of all the teams, better than the Warriors. Granted, I already talked about the Warriors' weird regular season, and better than any team in the East, better than the Heat. Now, those are based on traditional stats. Let's go to advanced stats. Let's go to net rating, which not in the playoffs. Net rating is generally the best statistic just to look at how good a team is. Interestingly enough, the Jazz were third, but the Grizzlies were fifth. Ja Morant missed a lot of the year. He should only get better. I think this Grizzlies team is young. They have a great squad. I think that if you want to have a dark horse to throw out, I don't hate the Grizzlies at plus 1,900 on FanDuel. In terms of the Western Conference, if you want to look at the Memphis Grizzlies plus 850 on Caesars, I don't hate as well. I do think in terms of a dark horse team, I think the Grizzlies aren't terrible. Now, to just give a brief comment on the remaining teams, the Miami Heat at plus 1,500, as currently constructed, I don't think are good enough to go to the finals. I think that aside from Jimmy Butler, they really struggle offensively. And the Heat are an interesting team in which they have a lot of good players, but they don't have a lot of well-rounded players. They have good defensive players, like PJ Tucker is great defensively. He's not so great offensively. Bam is great defensively, kind of disappointed in his offensive game. And then they have really good offensive players like Duncan Robinson, who didn't really play at all in the playoffs. Tyler Hero, great offensively, not great defensively. Gabe Vincent and Max Strus are good shooters who aren't terrible liabilities on the defensive end. But overall, unless the Heat make a splash, I don't think as presently constructed that they are fit to go to the finals. With that said, I do think the Heat have a splash in them. So I think that the only reason why it would be worth putting money on the Heat at plus 1,500, I think is because they do have a splash in them. Whether it's Brad Beal, whether it's Donovan Mitchell, whether it's some unnamed superstar who we don't think is available, the Heat always have something up their sleeves, so they're worth putting money on at plus 1,500. The Suns, I'm completely out on. They're going to get rid of DeAndre Ayton most likely. Chris Paul is another year older. The Suns had their window. They had a 2-year window where they could have won. They didn't get it, and I'm not touching the Suns as outright championship winner. I'm not touching the Suns to come out of the West either, no matter what the odds are. I'm not touching the Suns. A couple other teams, so the Sixers, no way. I've seen enough from Doc Rivers and James Harden in the playoffs to think they have a chance. Maybe if they fired Doc and James Harden signed with a smaller deal and they're able to trade Tobias for a bunch of different good two-way players, maybe they have a chance, but I'm not touching the Sixers either to come out of the East or certainly not to win the finals. Another dark horse that I don't think is terrible are the Pelicans at plus 4,500. We don't know what Zion's going to look like when they come back. What we do know is that the Pelicans have some pretty good young talent. Herb Jones is great. Alvarado is great. Two really good defensive stalwarts. They have a scorer in CJ McCollum, and who knows what Zion's going to look like. So I think sprinkling some on the Pelicans, maybe not to win the finals, but to come out of the West at plus 3,000, I don't think is terrible. And then if I had to give a long shot at any of these teams below here, I like the Cavs. I think the Cavs have a really good young nucleus. I'll maybe say it's worth putting $1 to $10 on the the Cavs, nothing higher. But I do think that they have a good young nucleus. I don't think next year is their year, but if you could bet on a future twin in the next 3 years, I would like that for the Cavs. The one team up here that I haven't mentioned yet are the Mavericks. I'm kind of out on the Mavericks. I think that they did a good job beating the Suns. They really showed that they can't hang with the big boys in the Western Finals against the Mavericks. They lose in 5. Luka's incredible. Tim Hardaway was missing for the majority of that playoff run, but I don't think the Mavericks have enough, even after the Christian Wood trade. So I don't really love the Mavericks. I think that they kind of remind me of the Portland Trailblazers when they had CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard, where they're always going to be good. They're always going to be in the conversation of the mid-tier Western Conference teams, but I never think they'll get over the hump, and I think they need a second star. I don't think Luka's amazing. He's incredible. I don't think he's good enough. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So just to give a brief recap, my best bet in terms of championship winner is going to be the Warriors at plus 500. My prediction to come out of the East is the Bucks, and in terms of my second favorite play, if it's a non-Warriors play, the Bucks to win the title at plus 700 is my next favorite. A couple dark horse ones are the Clippers at plus 750 and the Grizzlies at plus 1900. And if you want a dark horse, I don't hate the Timberwolves and I don't hate the Cavs. But that's going to be pretty much it. So let me know what you thought of the video. Would appreciate any feedback. Of course, would appreciate if you could like and comment, and then of course subscribe to the OddsJam YouTube channel. But that is all I got for you. So thank you guys for watching, and have a good one.